My name is Amelia, and I'm 25 years old now. But the story I'm about to share with you is one that still lives in my heart, even though it happened many years ago. It's not a happy story, but it's my story, and it's one I feel needs to be told. Maybe someone like me needs to hear it. I hope, by sharing it, you'll understand that you're not alone. I grew up in a small town nestled near the mountains. The winters here were cold, with snow covering the trees, and the icy roads seemed endless. But the snow wasn't all bad. The beauty of it, the stillness, was something I cherished. When spring came, the flowers bloomed, and the wind carried with it the scent of fresh earth and flowers. Our town was quiet and peaceful. Our house, a small one with a single floor, 2 bedrooms, and a tiny kitchen, was simple but filled with love. It was warm, not just because of the heating, but because of the warmth my parents gave me every single day. My mother, Julia, worked in a bakery. Every morning she made bread, cakes, and cookies. And when she came home, she always smelled of sugar. I loved that smell. My father, Mark, was a mechanic. His hands were rough from fixing cars, but his hugs were always soft and comforting. They were simple people, my parents, with kind hearts. I never knew anything different. They were my world, and I believed I was their daughter. I never once questioned it. I had no reason to. I looked like them, my hair was brown, just like my mother's, and my eyes were blue, just like my father's. We laughed together, we played games, and every evening we shared dinner around the same table. I had toys to play with, books to read, and warm clothes to wear. My room had a soft bed with blue blankets, and my mother would sing songs to me when I was sick. My father would read me bedtime stories every night. He would call me sunshine and kiss me on the forehead before I went to sleep. On weekends, we would go to the park or take walks by the river. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was filled with joy. We didn't have much money, but we had each other. We had movie nights with popcorn, and we had pancakes every Sunday. I thought my life was perfect, that every child lived the way I did. I never knew that anything was different about me. I never wondered why there were no baby pictures of me hanging on the walls. I never questioned why my parents looked a little older than the parents of other children at school. But everything changed when I turned 13. It was a cold afternoon in November, and the sky was a dull gray. The wind howled through the trees as I sat in my room doing homework. My Aunt Lisa, my father's sister, came to visit. She had a loud voice and loved to talk. She and my mother were in the kitchen drinking tea. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but as I walked past the door, I heard my name. Aunt Julia, Aunt Lisa's voice said, "Amelia doesn't know she's adopted." I froze. My heart began to beat fast. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I stood near the kitchen door and listened, my hands shaking. I heard my mother's soft response, "No, not yet. We want to wait. She's already 13. I felt as though the ground had been pulled from under me. The words were like a slap to my face, but I couldn't understand what they meant. My aunt continued talking. She came from a woman in the city. Her birth mother gave her away. Julia and Mark raised her like their own. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The words echoed in my head, and everything I thought I knew about myself began to crumble. I ran upstairs to my room and shut the door behind me. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, my mind racing. I cried, tears falling silently. I cried for hours. I didn't sleep that night, my pillow soaked with my tears. The next morning, I didn't know how to face my parents. I felt like a stranger in my own home, like everything I had known had been a lie. But despite all the fear and anger bubbling inside me, I went downstairs to the kitchen. My mother was making toast, and my father was reading the newspaper, just like any other morning. They looked the same, but everything felt different. I couldn't look at them the same way. I looked at my mother and asked, "Am I adopted?" She turned around, her eyes soft. She didn't say anything right away, but then she nodded and said, "Yes, sweetheart, you are. But we love you more than anything." My heart broke in that moment. "You lied to me," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You're not my real parents." My father put his newspaper down. He didn't get angry. He looked sad. He walked over to me, placed his hand on my shoulder, and said, "We didn't want to hurt you. We were going to tell you one day, but we didn't know when." Tears flooded my eyes again. I was angry. I wanted to scream. "I want to find my real parents," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. My mother went to my room and packed a small bag with clothes, a scarf, and some food. My father gave me some money. They didn't try to stop me, they didn't argue, but I could see the sadness in their eyes. I didn't say thank you. I was angry. I walked out of the house, feeling a cold emptiness inside. I didn't know exactly where to go, but I remembered something Aunt Lisa had said years ago. My biological parents lived in a nearby city called Hillview. It was 2 hours away by bus. I didn't know why, but something in me felt that I needed to find them. I needed to know the truth, to understand where I came from. I walked to the bus stop, the cold wind biting at my face. I sat on the bench, waiting for the bus. I felt scared, but also angry. I didn't want to go back, but I didn't know what else to do. When the bus finally came, I gave the driver the money and sat near the window. The trees passed by, the buildings disappeared, and my heart felt like a big, heavy rock inside me. When I got off the bus in Hillview, I walked to the address I had written down, not knowing if it was still correct. The houses were old, the streets quiet. I stood in front of a house for a long time, staring at the door before I finally knocked. A woman answered. She had gray in her hair, and her face looked tired. She didn't say anything. Then a man appeared. His face was thin, and his shirt had a hole in it. He looked at me for a moment and then asked, "Amelia?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "I think I'm your daughter." He didn't smile. He didn't offer to shake my hand. Another person came to the door, a teenage boy. He looked at me with anger in his eyes and said, "Why are you here? We don't have room for more people." I turned back to the man. "My birth father," I said quietly. "Is this where I belong?" He looked at me with a sad expression and said, "Life is hard here. We are poor. My wife is not kind. We don't have space. I'm sorry, Amelia. I can't help you." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. My voice was stuck, and my legs felt weak. I turned around and walked away. No one stopped me. No one called my name. No one asked me if I had eaten or where I would sleep. I walked for what felt like hours, my feet sore and my heart heavy. The cold wind sliced through my jacket, but I didn't care. I didn't know where I was going or what I was searching for. I was lost not just in the city, but in my heart. I had just met the people who gave me life, but they didn't want me. I felt like an outsider in my own story, a chapter that didn't belong. Eventually, I found a bench by the river. The water was dark, reflecting the gray sky above, and the air felt colder than ever. I sat there, holding my small bag tightly in my hands, as tears started to fall. I wanted to scream, to shout at the world for being so unfair, for taking away everything I thought I knew. But instead, I sat there in silence, my mind racing with thoughts that I couldn't escape. I thought about the people I had just left behind, my adoptive parents. I thought about the warmth of our home, the smell of my mother's cooking, and the soft laughter that echoed through our small house. Why did I leave them? Why did I push them away when all they had ever done was love me? The more I sat there, the more the thought crossed my mind. Maybe no one wants me. Maybe I'm not meant to be loved. The cold, empty feeling in my chest grew, and for a brief moment, I thought about ending the pain. I thought about jumping into the river, where the cold water would wash everything away. But then something inside me stopped me. It was a small voice, almost like a whisper, but it was there. "Don't do it," it said. "You're not alone. You don't have to give up." I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I pulled my phone from my pocket, my hand shaking as I typed a message to my adoptive mother. I wrote, "Please help me. I want to come home. If you don't help me, I will jump into the river." I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. My heart pounded in my chest, and my fingers trembled as I waited for a reply. The cold wind continued to blow, but my body felt numb. The minutes ticked by slowly, and I thought to myself that maybe they wouldn't care. Maybe they'd just forget about me, like everyone else had. But then, after what felt like forever, my phone vibrated. A message from my mother appeared on the screen. "We will send the money now. Please wait. Please don't do anything bad. We love you. Please come home." The words sent a flood of emotions through me. I started to cry harder, but this time, the tears felt different. They weren't just tears of sadness, they were tears of hope. A tiny spark of hope ignited in my chest, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I stayed by the bench, staring at my phone, waiting for the money to arrive. I didn't care how cold it was or how much my feet ached. I just had to wait. I had to hold on to this feeling of hope, no matter how small it was. 2 hours passed. My feet were frozen, and my stomach growled with hunger, but I didn't care. My heart was still racing, but now it was full of a different kind of energy hope. I looked at my phone once more, and when I saw the message from the bank confirming the transfer, I stood up from the bench and made my way to the nearest bus station. The woman at the counter gave me a small, polite smile, but I couldn't bring myself to answer her question of, "Are you okay?" I wasn't okay, but I would be. Soon, I would be okay. I had made the choice to go home, and that was all that mattered. I bought a bus ticket with the money from my parents, and I sat down to wait. The bus came, and I climbed aboard. The streets outside were quiet, the roads empty. As the bus moved slowly through the night, I looked out the window, but my mind wasn't focused on the scenery. I was thinking about my parents, Julia and Marquand, the things I had said to them in my anger. I was thinking about the things I had done and how they had always been there for me, even when I didn't deserve it. As the bus made its way back to my hometown, I felt both relief and regret. Relief because I was going back to the people who loved me, who would welcome me with open arms. Regret because I had been so cruel to them. But at least I was going back. At least there was still a chance to make things right. The bus arrived in my town around midnight. It was cold and quiet, with no cars or people in sight. The streets were empty, and the only sounds were the distant hum of the wind and the soft creak of the trees. I walked to the house, my steps slow and uncertain. I stood in front of the door for a moment, gathering my thoughts before I finally opened it. Inside, the light in the living room was on. My mother was sitting on the couch, and my father was by the window. They didn't say anything when they saw me. They didn't shout or ask me questions. My mother stood up and walked toward me, pulling me into a tight embrace. My father took my bag and placed it on the floor, his hand resting on my shoulder. We didn't say anything for a while. The silence was thick, but it was a warm silence. Finally, my mother said, "Come sit down. You must be cold." She brought me a warm blanket, and my father made tea. They gave me food, hot soup, and bread, but I didn't talk. I just ate slowly, feeling the warmth return to my body. After I finished, I went to my room. Everything looked the same: my bed, my books, my blue blanket. It felt like nothing had changed, but I had changed. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy with guilt. I thought about my birth parents, the cold house, and the angry words of my biological brother. But then I thought about my real parents, the ones who had raised me, who had stayed up waiting for my messages, who had sent money when I was in need. The next morning, my mother came into my room with a cup of tea. She didn't say anything. She just placed the tea near my bed and sat beside me, her hands warm against my skin. She didn't press me to talk. She just looked at me, and I could see the love in her eyes. "I'm sorry," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. She gently touched my hair. "You are our daughter," she said softly, "forever." That simple sentence made everything feel right again. I cried, but this time it was different. I wasn't crying because I was lost. I was crying because I finally understood. They had always loved me, even when I didn't know how to love them back. That day, my father came home early. He brought me flowers, his face smiling as he said, "Welcome home, princess." The words hit me hard. I remembered when I was little, how he would call me that, how he would push me on the swing and fix my bike. I remembered everything: the love, the care, the little moments that made me who I was. We didn't talk about the river or my anger. We didn't need to. The love we shared was stronger than any of the hurt I had caused. Over the next few days, I helped my mother in the kitchen, baking cookies together. I cleaned the living room and folded my clothes. I started going to school again, and my teachers and friends were happy to see me. I didn't tell them the full story. It was mine, and I wasn't ready to share it yet. But I knew one thing: I had come home. As time passed, the healing began. My parents never asked me to explain myself. They never blamed me. They simply loved me, and that love was all I needed. Sometimes, at night, I would remember that scared 13-year-old girl who ran away, thinking she was searching for something. She didn't know that she already had everything she needed. I had always been loved. I had always belonged.